Hi there, I'm Gord, and welcome to the second episode of 9, where I'm going to teach you how to make this segmented bowl. On today's episode, we're going to look at how to make the segments and how to form them into a ring. So sit back and enjoy. I hope you learned something. Have a great day.
The segments for this vessel are cut at 11.25 degrees. I'm setting the miter saw to this angle. Because the blade is already at 90 degrees to the fence, I have to add that to the 11.25, which gives me 101.25. My digital protractor only does 1 decimal place, so I set it at 101.2. I will fine-tune the segments on my disc sander, so this is close enough. I'm installing a zero-tolerance fence and bed on my miter saw. It helps keep small pieces from flying behind the saw and ending up in my dust collector. I'm jointing the edge of a walnut board that will be used for the first ring in the vessel. Now I'm ripping the board to width for the segments, and then I will joint the face of the board and put it through the drum sander to clean it up. I'm cutting the end off the board to give me the first angle for the first segment.
To mark the segment for an 8-inch ring, I set my calipers to 1.671 inches. The segments need to be 1.571 inches for the ring, and I add that little bit to allow for sanding it away to adjust the segment. After making a mark on the board, I use a square to draw the line. Now I will set my bevel gauge to the angle I cut on the end of the board. I use the bevel gauge to mark the face so I can line it up with the slot on my miter saw. With the board on the miter saw and the line on the slot, I position and lock down a stop to make every cut a consistent length.
After each segment is cut, I flip the board and cut off the smallest amount I can to show another edge the full width of the board. Then I flip it again and push it against the stop to cut the next segment. Doing this makes sure that the outside edge of the ring is from the same side of the board, resulting in a consistent grain pattern. I number each segment to make sure I don't mix them up, which would lose the beauty of the grain pattern. If I just flip the board after a cut and cut another segment, I will save a small amount of wood, but the grain does not usually look nearly as nice as it does with this system. Before I get nasty comments regarding my reaching in to grab the segments before the blade stops, just let me say that as long as the teeth of the blade are buried under the zero clearance bed, I feel that I am perfectly safe doing so. Now I'm using a tool to grab the segments so that I won't give anyone a heart attack. I'm actually a safety first kind of guy. It might be that I've been doing it too long and don't even think about it. Please don't follow that example if it bothers you. I'm setting up my sanding jig on the disc sander to fine-tune the segments. I have a video on YouTube showing how to build this jig if you're interested in looking at it. I won't go into a lot of detail now because all the detail is already in that video. I'm sanding the first segment here. I sand both sides of the segment to make sure it's at the correct angle and then measure the length to see how close I am to my intended measurement. Then I adjust the adjuster a little closer to the disc and sand again. I keep repeating this until I arrive at the measurement I want. After the segments are cut, I sand all the edges to get rid of the little fuzzies that could cause a less than perfect glue up. I use hose clamps to hold the segments together for the glue up. They are quick and easy to use and have great holding power. Be sure to line up the segments carefully. If the outside edges don't all line up, you could end up with a ring that isn't round.
Occasionally, no matter how well your segment adjuster is calibrated, you will find that there are gaps between your segments. A slight waver when sanding the segments that you don't even notice can be enough to cause your ring to be less than perfect. When this happens, you can glue the ring up with the half ring method as I'm doing here. To use the half ring method, just put a piece of dowel between segments on opposite sides of the ring. When you tighten the hose clamp, the dowels will allow the halves of the ring to swivel a bit, and this will cause the other joints to tighten up. Once you have done a dry fit to be sure it works, you can glue the other segments. As the flashlight shows, there are no gaps between the segments and it is ready to be glued up. To glue the half rings, I remove the hose clamp and then put masking tape on the faces of the segments that I don't want to glue. You don't really need to do this if you can remember to not put glue on these surfaces. That might explain why I choose to do this. Once the masking tape is on these segments, I put some glue on my work surface if it is a material that glue won't adhere to, or on wax paper. Now I can use a brush to put glue on all the surfaces that are to be glued together. I use the rub joint method. I rub the glued surfaces together to be sure the glue is well spread and then hold them together for a few seconds. That's all it takes to get the glue to start to hold. Oh yeah, forgot to use the carousel, which makes it much easier to do this. Once the glue is spread on all the joints, it's just a matter of putting the hose clamp on and tightening it. Tighten it a few times as the glue will continue to migrate out of the joint while it is under pressure. This had all night for the glue to dry, so now I just have to take it apart and glue the two halves together. To do that, I'm just taking off the masking tape. I'll put some pencil marks on each end of these so I can tell when they've sanded evenly on the disc sander. I'll just take them to the disc sander, straighten these out, and glue them together. One face on each half of the ring should be sanded so the half rings will lie flat on the bed. Sand the ends of the segments lightly to remove the pencil marks and make the half rings line up without gaps. There are no gaps now, you can't see any light through those, so I just have to glue the two sides together. Now while the glue dries, I'll go on to the next step and prepare the glue block to put it on the lathe. Well, I hope all that made sense. Hope you enjoyed that. In part 3, I'm going to show how to make the glue block that everything hangs off of, the first ring, and the floating disc that goes in the bottom. So join me for that. I hope you're enjoying this. Let me know if you do. Click on the like button. Leave a comment, let me know what you think. Subscribe if you like. Have a great day, do some wood turning. Thanks for watching.